Hey, middle-aged gamers, welcome back. I'm a little bit sick today, so I apologize for my voice and maybe any facial expressions. I have this like huge pounding headache at the center of my head. Since pretty much yesterday, stuff is going on, right? The Steam sale is coming to a close in 2 days, so make sure you get those last few games. Also, check out other sales on other platforms like the Switch, like the PS5, and I believe, Adam, the PlayStation Summer Sale hasn't started yet.
I think the summer sale ended, and now they are in the something else. Every time a sale ends, there's a new sale.
Okay, there you go. So today, right, six stories as usual. As always, we're also going to be talking about some controversial Reddit questions on RSS Gaming towards the end, so stay tuned for those. On Adam's side of the show, today we're talking about Helldivers 2 finally coming to Xbox. Where Winds Meet having a pre-launch test. We're talking more about these Stop Killing Games. And on my side of the show, we could talk about a game called Blue Archive, which I had never heard of, but apparently that's a thing. Subnautica 2, a game that Antoine and I love, the original Subnautica. It has had a change of leadership, led on by Krafton Publishers, which I believe is the same publishing company for Inzoi, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they let go of Subnautica's leadership, so a lot of people are worried, like I'm worried, and I'll tell you more about my worries when I come down to it. And my last video, of course, is going to be talking about another cozy game called Go Go Town, which is something I was talking about with Adam, was like, what games do I want to cover for the Crane Padiachi Cozy Game channel? But anyway, Adam, tell us about Helldivers 2.
Yeah, so Helldivers 2 is finally coming to Xbox, not right away, but in a little bit. It's going to be releasing on August 26th, but pre-orders are open now. So if you want to join the chaos, then feel free to pre-order that and be ready to jump on in come August. So this, of course, as a lot of people asking, is Helldivers 2 coming to Game Pass? Of course, was it one of the creators of it came out and said absolutely not. There is zero chance that this is going to be coming to Game Pass. This is a Sony published game, so no, it will not be coming to Game Pass. You're gonna have to buy the game, but it is very, very worth it. So in case you've been under a rock and you're not really sure what is Helldivers, is it the kind of game that I really want to get into? Well, let's just do a bit of a backtrack here and talk about what the game really is. So Helldivers 2 is a kind of an extraction shooter. It's not your traditional type. You know, in a traditional extraction shooter, you go in, you try to do whatever you're trying to do, gather up supplies, and then leave. And when you do, then you're able to keep what you get, or if you die, then you lose everything. Well, in Helldivers, that doesn't happen. In Helldivers, you go down, you have a mission to do, you try to complete that mission, and when you leave, then you get to collect any samples or, you know, any kind of currency that you've found or that sort of thing. But you're not going to lose your weapons or anything like that on an unsuccessful hell dive. So you're going to take a team of up to 4 people and to randomly generated maps, and you're going to be achieving certain objectives. Sometimes it might be like defend a certain point. Sometimes it might be help civilians extract. Sometimes you just need to destroy whatever bug nests or factories if you're fighting the automatons. So you're going to have, you know, various different things, lots of different levels. You choose your objective when you go in. You're going to choose your planet. It's going to show you different areas of the planet where you can drop, and then it's going to give you, usually depending on your difficulty level, a series of different missions that you can choose from. So you're choosing what kind of missions you're going to be doing. And then, of course, when you go into combat, you're going to be taking in your primary weapon and a secondary weapon, as well as choosing your armor, which is going to give you various buffs. So, you know, you can collect all those and try what you like. You know, do you like a shotgun? Do you like the submachine guns? Do you like the assault rifles? Do you like the marksman rifles? You're also going to be able to take 4 stratagems with you. And if you're not sure what a stratagem is, what it is they can be anything from orbital strikes to, you know, you have an eagle, which is kind of like your airplane kind of thing. They can do flybys. You can drop different weapons, turrets, vehicles, utility items such as a shield. But basically what you do is you hold down a button and then you have to call it in using a series of button presses. So, you know, it might be like up, down, left, right, up, or whatever. So as you play through the game, you're going to be memorizing these. You're going to be getting much faster at them. So, you know, you do that, you call down whatever your stratagem you need, and then you use that to fulfill your missions. So, you know, certain ones are going to be better for certain missions. You're also going to be able to equip yourself with a passive, which is going to give you different benefits. Like anytime you call in a resupply, it's going to have a turret on top of it, or your stamina is going to last much longer, or enemies aren't going to be randomly popping in on the map as often, that sort of thing. There's also 3 enemy factions. Currently, we have the bugs, we have the automatons, and then we have the illuminate, which are amphibious people, but they have lots of good technology. And you can fight in different parts of the sector, so you can choose where you want to go. And different planets are going to have different types. You could have a desert planet that has fire tornadoes, or you could have you can have like a cold moon type planet, or you can have planets that have more urban environment. And and so you're also, as you play, you're gonna be given different orders. These are objectives that they want you to do. These could be something like secure a planet. So you have X many days, and we need to have at least 50% of that planet by the end of those days. Or sometimes it might be like we need to destroy this many enemy units. You're also going to have your personal orders, which might say like, extract successfully 3 times, or take out 3 of us, 20 of a certain type of enemy, or that sort of thing. You get war bonds, which are basically kind of like your battle passes. They'll drop war bonds, and these last forever. Once they drop one, they're always there, so you can do them at your leisure. But you buy the war bonds, and then as you go through the game, you're going to be earning basically experience, and you can use your experience to buy different parts of these war bonds, and those are going to unlock a whole bunch of different things. More weapons, more uniforms, skins for various things, that sort of thing. There's 10 difficulty levels, so if you like a little bit more of a challenge, there are quite a few that you can go through. Every time to unlock the next difficulty challenge, you do have to complete a mission at the previous difficulty. So, for example, if you're at level 7 and you want to access level 8, you're going to have to beat a level 7 mission. But then once you do, you can unlock level 8. So that's really cool. You also have your super destroyer for support. So that's your big ship in the space that you're going to be dropping from. You can upgrade that to give you various benefits, like reducing cooldowns or making things more accurate, or that sort of thing. So that's basically Helldivers. Although there is one more thing you do need to keep in mind, and that is that the game does have friendly fire. So things can get very chaotic very quickly, because if you're not careful, you might be just as dangerous to your friends as the enemy is. So it gets real fun, but it gets real crazy at the same time. So will you be trying out Helldivers when it comes to Xbox? Have you already tried it? A lot of people now are wondering, will we be getting Helldivers 2 on Switch 2? Hopefully, because we can use all the help we can get. So yeah, looking forward to having all those Xbox people come in and join us, and hopefully at some point we'll be getting Nintendo fans as well. But yeah, check out Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox this August 26th.
I played for an hour, and this is a game I will say I regret purchasing, just because not that I didn't like it. It was fun, and I wish we could play it, but I wish I could play it. But it's just like, this is not a game I'm going to be playing on my own. And my friend Hans and I have moved on to Grounded, the game from Obsidian, a survival game. And then after Grounded, I think we wanted to play Split Fiction, or I just saw the news that Blue Protocol is relaunching that anime-inspired MMO. This falls into the line of games. So I regret purchasing specifically because I know I won't have time to play this. But it was a fun game. I think this would have launched on Game Pass if Microsoft had found some conditions with Sony or with the developer to say, hey, we think this should be on Game Pass. And I think if this had launched in Game Pass, this would have skyrocketed to the top of Steam's most played or other things like that. And my nose is gonna. So I imagine negotiations sort of fell apart at some point. Okay, fine, we're just launching an Xbox. And with it launching an Xbox, I don't think we're going to see a huge number of players sort of jump in immediately, because I think as the years have gotten, a lot of Xbox players with the integration of Xbox stuff in Windows 11, I'll get a gaming PC, right? So, I mean, they probably, I would say 50% of Helldivers 2 players have already played Helldivers 2 on PC, and there's no reason to get it on the Xbox. And again, that's just a number I'm throwing out. I don't have any scientific basis for this, but Yeah, Game Pass would have been the thing that would have made Helldivers 2. I could imagine social media would have been flooded again. Without Game Pass, I think this is just going to be a blip on the gaming radar.
Yeah, no, I don't think Helldivers being on Game Pass was ever on the table. I don't think that was ever an option. Simply because, you know, like when you're somebody like releasing an Xbox game on PlayStation or releasing a PlayStation game on Xbox, a lot of that is advertising. And so what you're doing is you're saying, hey, look, play this game. And if you play, if I played Halo on PlayStation, if it ever came out, then I'm like, oh, wow, I'm really enjoying Halo. I want more. Oh, the only way to do it is to go to Xbox. Or, if I think future iterations are going to be coming out, I'm not going to be able to play them on release. It's going to be like a Stellar Blade kind of situation where if you want to keep up with the Joneses, you're going to have to get this console or whatever. Whereas if you put it on Game Pass, I think the advertising message there would be very detrimental. I think a lot of people would say like, hey, why are we not getting this free on PlayStation Plus? This is a PlayStation game. We've been supporting you guys for so long, but it's not on PlayStation Plus, but you're putting it on Game Pass? What's going on here? I think the messaging would just be so ludicrous that the price to make it worthwhile would just be way more than would be worth it to Microsoft, based on the number of sales that they're expecting to make. And the money they're gleaning off of that. I think they'd probably be losing money on the deal to do it in such a way that PlayStation would be satisfied with, like, all right, we're okay with this. So yeah, I don't think it being on Game Pass was ever on anybody's radar or bingo card or whatever. I don't think anybody was ever expecting that. So
have there been notable multiplayer games on Game Pass? PlayStation Plus?
Yeah, there have been. I mean, there are. I would have to check. I only have Essential, so I only get the 3 free games that they launch every month. But they've launched some multiplayer games there with the free ones. I think that they have some in premium, or
I feel like I've heard of something because I still get PlayStation News despite not having a PlayStation. So I feel like a Call of Duty, Edwin, one of the Call of Duties might have come onto PlayStation Plus months after
that
it
sounds
launched.
familiar. Let's see.
It just makes me
Looking it up
think.
right now.
Why I'm waiting for Adam to look out, because I think this is an interesting idea, right? Like games launching onto a free service, quote unquote, right? But you still pay money for monthly. How did it affect player numbers for a particular game, right? Because it is like you play a game like a Call of Duty, right? And if there's nobody playing it, like fine. Like if you got it through PlayStation Plus, you've not lost anything. If you paid $70, right, or $80 for a Call of Duty and nobody's playing it, that would be a problem.
Okay, so it says, just a quick search on Google. It's saying like It Takes Two, Overcooked, Sackboy Big O Adventures, Outriders was free on PS Plus.
Okay. But Outriders is already dead mostly, right?
Monster Hunter Rise. Yeah, but these are out right now. I'm not sure when they came out.
Okay.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Fighter
even still,
Z.
like,
So yeah,
nobody
they do have multiplayer games.
But there's nothing like as big of a success as a Helldivers 2.
Well, let's see. Top 10 multiplayer games on PlayStation Plus right now. Number 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, FIFA 24, Destiny 2, Grand Theft Auto Online, Monster Hunter World, Overcooked All You Can Eat, Fall Guys, Rainbow Six Siege, Rocket League, Apex Legends, but that's free anyway. I guess some of these are just generally free.
Right.
But yeah, they do have some games.
Okay, that's interesting. Hey, what did you think about Destiny Rise?
I have not looked at that because I have not looked at Destiny in forever, so I have no idea what's coming with Destiny.
I thought you might choose that because I saw it like as an upcoming game. I'm like, Destiny? Isn't Destiny dead? There's not.
That's the mobile
3.
one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. No, I haven't played Destiny in a long time. So I wasn't paying too much attention. And I saw immediately it was a mobile game, and I was like, nope. And And I totally forgot.
I knew you wouldn't play it, but I was like, I mean, I felt sorry because Destiny has such a huge IP, and why would you destroy that with a freaking mobile game?
Destiny's been struggling for a long time.
So you've mentioned
And
they
Bungie,
did that too.
especially, has been
Yes.
struggling for a long
Yes.
time.
I mean, did you see the Microsoft layoffs? You know, like 343 Studios, a bunch of their employees were let off because I guess, you know, the Halo multiplayer game, which did really well when it first came out for a bit of time, but they never managed to sort of take it to the next level to keep people playing the game. So those people were let off.
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
been some weird things going over at Microsoft. I was considering covering it, but then I was like, I don't want bad news. But the
yeah.
layoffs, and they said, was it 9% of the, or is it 4%?
And not nine, I think it
4%?
was 9,000 employees.
9,000 employees. That's where I'm getting the 9 from.
Yeah.
It's like 4% of all their
9% of
employees.
Microsoft would be 20,000.
Okay,
people.
okay. Yeah. It was 9. I was like, there was a 9 in there somewhere. 9,000 employees, which is 4% of the total company. But
Yeah.
and they said the Xbox studios were actually hit harder than most. So we don't have the exact number, but a lot of Xbox, and then a lot of games were shut down. Perfect Dark was shut down.
That's a shame.
What was it? The Romero games. The guy said that they had a meeting the day before the announcement, and they were negotiating stuff, and everything seemed fine. And then literally the next day, he reads online like, "Oh no, sorry, bye." So yeah, no, that's insane.
Yeah, I saw his story as well because I guess he has 42 core employees, but Microsoft pays for like 58 contractors. So it was like 100 people working for his games. I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah, a lot of games were canceled, and then this follows with like Hi-Fi Rush being so successful, and then that and them getting shut down immediately afterwards, and
Exactly.
it's just kind of like, what's going on? I don't really know what their end game is here.
Oh, a lot of people, I don't say a lot, a few media publications are like, yep, this is, you know, Microsoft sort of trimming down, and even the CEO of Microsoft was on. He's like, you know what? You know what he said? Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and then people dug deeper. They're like, he doesn't listen to any podcasts. He has his various AI agents listen and transcribe it and tell him the highlight points of podcasts while he's working in his, you know, corner stone office at some high rise in Redmond, Washington. So I think this is, it continues the whole little AI replacer, worker replacement stuff that's going on.
Yeah,
And we'll talk about that a bit later.
it's a little bit different, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, back onto the train. What do you get when you mix tactical combat, anime charm, and a surprisingly deep story? You get Blue Archive. I was totally did not know about this, and I think this is the thing that we've talked about. I think maybe a few times that other developers have mentioned this. That Steam is so big, you lose so many things that are on Steam that might have come out for years or months, and like, hey, why didn't I know about this game? Because Steam stuff is buried, right? Steam has thousands, maybe 1,000 games released a day as a number, but the Switch store also has that problem where there's so much stuff coming out, and there's a lot of like quote unquote shovelware that you miss a lot of games. So I saw this, I'm like, oh, what is this game? And this is Gacha meets tactics. Blue Archive blends real-time strategy with gacha mechanics. You assemble a squad of adorable but deadly students and engage in auto battle skirmishes with tactical positioning. So this looked really interesting, and I saw this and I'm like, okay, let me find a trailer for Adam. And I was trying to find them. This freaking, you know what there is on this YouTube channel for the actual game? The first few videos are just music. People love this game and the music so much, or like they have like the characters from the game talking about guns and stuff, but there's no actual physical gameplay of this game, which I found was absolutely weird. But I'm like, okay, people play it and people like it. And the video eventually I had to get was from somebody else playing it. So the story is set in a city full of academies, and each one has its own politics vibe and a group of characters. It's sort of like Persona meets Girls Frontline. I have no idea what Girls Frontline is, but apparently it's a decent game. So despite its cute anime art style, the game explores surprisingly serious themes with layered storytelling. Looking through the videos, one thing I did notice was that there are there's a lot of story in it. Like going back to the video of like, hey, there's like almost no gameplay footage in the first like weeks of videos, well, not 2 weeks of videos, right? And I'm like, okay, I need footage for today's show. And you're just looking, and there's lots of story, like lots of story about this character and that character. So it seems like very story focused, despite it being a, free to play gacha game. So there's a bunch of new updates, banners, collabs. There's the collab with, actually collab with a game that I think it's something similar to Mega Break, which again, go back, look at last week's show. Adam talked about that. And it's been out since 2021 and it's 2025, right? So you get like, wait, why are you talking about this now? But I'm talking about it now because, again, this is something I've been thinking about as well, is like, what do I want to invest my time in? What do we want to invest our time in as a middle-aged gaming channel, or my own channel, or Adam's own channel? Is you want a game that's going to be developed, and I'll talk about that in my third story as well, is that you want to have a game where developers are pumping out videos, right? You don't want a game where the developers like, here's an update every 3 months with no videos, no social media, no news stories. That's always a terrible sign. You feel terrible. So the good thing about this is 4 years later, they are still pumping out videos on their own YouTube channel. There's still social posts on X. There's still gameplay updates on Steam. So this is a game where you can be sure, like a Genshin Impact, like a Honkai Star Rail, right? Like, yes. This game is going to be there for the future. Warframe's the same way. I think Warframe, having 60,000 active players, right? It's not a Counter-Strike or something like that, but it's still, with 60,000 active players, they're still developing content. They're still developing another game, Soulframe, right? So if you're looking for something to try, and if you're big into anime, I'm watching Miss Kobayashi and her Dragon Maid recently, which is like a totally weird anime, but if you're into anime, into tactics and turn-based games, give this a try and let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, I'm looking at the gameplay. I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing here. Like you said it's a tactical game, but they're not moving. They're all standing still. Yeah, it looks like kind of like a lot of these kind of gacha games where characters have abilities set on a cooldown, and you basically just wait. For the most part, you usually just wait until they're off cooldown and then immediately click them. I mean, I've played like the Nier mobile game, and I mean they had similar kind of thing, where you basically, when the character's abilities were up, you used them. But there the tactics was less in the combat and more planning your team. So you had to plan a team with good synergy and that sort of thing, and that's where most of your tactics were. I personally have never really gotten into these kinds of games. I've said it before, I'm not a big mobile gamer. So that style, I've never really gotten into it, or the auto battlers either. So I can't comment really, but yeah, I feel like I've heard of this game, but I don't really know anything about it.
I was totally surprised about this, and you made a few good points as well. It's like this particular clip, yes, no movement at all. On the Steam page for the game, you do see repositioning for this game, like repositioning in a battle. But again, like the Steam page had like, I couldn't find any of the videos from the Steam page in the YouTube channel, because I was just going through videos and videos and videos, and it's just like, oh, here's this soundtrack of this character, and here's this person singing and stuff.
I like that. God. I like the Clair Obscur when they put all their music up and they made a playlist of all the music in the game. I'm on board with that. That's cool. I like the idea of, having the characters come in and doing little introductions to various things. I think that's really cool. It makes the world a little more immersive. Plus, it gives the voice actors some work, so I think that's actually kind of interesting. It gives them something to do. Kind of a consistent income. Even if it's not quite as big as they do during big releases, it gives them something. So I think that's really cool. I like all that. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Adam, tell us about Where Winds Meet, which I totally forgot what this is about, but I feel like you've talked about this before.
I talked about it a long time ago. I didn't really know too much about it there. And then again, this is another one of those things where the trailer for what's coming up is not really going to tell you too much about gameplay. It's all cinematic, and it's all takes place in a Chinese opera house, and they're mostly dancing. But anyway, if you are interested, there is going to be a pre-launch test for Where Winds Meet coming July 24th. So this is going to be on PS5 and the PC, Steam on PC. And again, it's coming out July 24th. You can apply now. You can go to their web page and you can submit, and then they're going to email you if you're selected. I did it. They do say, actually, you have to fill out a bit of a survey first. I've had to do this a couple times. I think I did it maybe with one of the Monster Hunters and some other things where they'll ask you questions like, how much experience do you have with wuxia, or how much, what other games in this genre or that genre, like have you in the action RPG genre and the RPG genre. They'll ask you what kind of games you play there. They ask you your region and all that, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a wide variety of players, and they're trying to get an idea of who's interested in this game. And, if you, a lot of times, if you kind of answer with answers that are a bit out of the ordinary, it's kind of a gamble, because on the one hand, they may be like, oh, this person probably isn't going to enjoy this game. Why should we add them to the beta? But at other times, too, they'll actually be like, oh, this is kind of interesting that this person's a different perspective. Let's get their perspective on it. So, so answer honestly, because it does help. But anyway, this is a single or up to 4-player co-op game. Some people are calling it an MMO. It looks like you can actually open up the game into kind of an MMO world and play online. So there's just a bunch of players running around. They do have PvP in there. I think it might be mostly focused on dueling, though. So I don't think you have to be too worried about people coming in. Although, it does look like you'd have invasions similar to what you might have in like a Dark Souls game. But we'll get into that. But for the most part, the game's going to be either single player or 4-player co-op. And this particular playtest is going to be featuring the wilderness and the rural areas from the previous tests. So if you've done previous tests, you're still going to be able to visit them. But the real kind of thing that they're adding for this one is a new area. It's called Kaifeng, and it's supposed to be massive. It's going to have 10,000 NPCs milling about doing their daily whatever routines. And it's going to have multiple activities. So you're going to have, you can do pickpocketing, there's going to be brawling, there's bathhouses, there's the opera that they show in the trailer, and of course multiple stories and quests. So there's going to be a lot to explore in this playtest. And the game description says, freedom is yours, but every action has its weight. Cause chaos, defy the law, and face bounties, pursuit, even time behind bars, or walk a nobler path, befriend villagers, forge alliances, and grow your reputation as a hero of the wuxia world. So yeah, it looks like you're going to have a lot of impact on the world. I was reading online somebody who had played a previous playtest, and they said that it feels very similar to GTA in the amount of freedom that you're given. You can just kind of go everywhere, and you do get a lot of these kind of classical, kung fu movie abilities. You wall running, you can run straight up walls and jump back and forth, and certain abilities allow you to do the thing where you're like running on the tops of bamboo, or bouncing across water and stuff like that. So if you're a fan of those old movies, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon isn't quite one of the older movies, but it's old by now, I suppose. But if you're into that sort of thing, that's basically the kind of game you're going to expect. Imagine Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon meets GTA. It seems to be the description. So in the final game, there's going to be 20 distinct regions, and this is a parry combat focused game. So some people are comparing it to Sekiro. From what I've seen, it probably looks a little bit closer to Stellar Blade in that it's not so punishing as Sekiro is meant to be. But that style, and then you have multiple martial arts styles. You have sword, spear, dual blades, glaive, fans, umbrellas. You also get some hand-to-hand. You get some Tai Chi moves in there. You also get ranged weapons, so you have a bow. And it looks like there's even some magic, so you can get like fire breathing, or like we said, running across water, that sort of thing. And it's not always about combat. Sometimes it is about traversal, which is really, really cool. And you're supposed to build your loadout to suit your own style. So it looks like you can equip up to 2 melee weapons and 1 ranged weapon, and swap between them for combos. So if you're a fan of Naraka Blade Point, then it looks like that is pretty similar. There you also have, you can have up to 4 weapons, but you can have 2 equipped at any given time. You have 2 in reserve. And so you can do that. You can switch it around. I've seen They had a guy who was like using a fan to kind of make wind and knock a guy in the air, and then they'd switch the sword and, you know, jab him while he's in the air and then shoot him with the bow. So very relatively fast-paced, very action-oriented combat, which is what you would expect in any kind of wuxia genre. And what's kind of interesting, though, is that you can learn techniques in multiple ways, such as observing animals in the wild. So, like, if you observe a dragon, you can learn a flame breath attack. Or if you observe a lion, you get, like, a roar. Or if you observe a frog, you get a special kind of jump, that sort of thing. So that's kind of a really interesting twist on it. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you would often see in this genre, you know, in the movies or in the books or that sort of thing, you know, where somebody's observing a frog and they're like, oh, you know, like the way the frog sits on the lily pad and it inspires, you know, some new form of martial arts or whatever. I mean, look at martial arts. You have things like crane style and monkey style and stuff like that. So, you know, this is very true to life in that sense. They're also going to have settlement building, or at least house building. So you can find some areas in the world and build your own little house. Be aware that that can be destroyed, though. Because one of the things that, since this is like a GTA-like game, you can go out and you can rob anyone, but they can also rob you. You know, so that can be turned around. I saw somebody playing and they were running around and this guy came over, this random NPC, and pulled them off their horse and took the horse and ran off. And they were not able to get the horse back. So, yeah, so this is all going on. Another thing that this is probably going to be a little bit controversial is there is going to be AI-enabled chat for NPCs. So I'm not sure how you're going to be talking to them. I don't know if you're using a microphone or if you're, you know, typing in something. I'm not quite sure. But there is AI chat enabled for NPCs, so you will be able to talk to them and befriend them, so you can get certain affinities with them, get them to like you and that sort of thing. So, for instance, one of the things they say is that you're going to be shaping this game. If you're going out and you're creating chaos, you're going to get a bounty. And that's going to affect the world. If you're out playing as the hero, that's going to affect the world. People are going to treat you differently and that sort of thing. Also, one thing that I saw that probably some people might find a little bit controversial, or at least annoying, if you are caught in the game by the police, they will send police after you. If you get a little bit too much of a wanted level or too much of a reputation, you'll get a bounty. If you do have a bounty, they can summon other players, can be brought into your game and collect that bounty on you. But if you are caught by the in-game police, they will throw you in prison, and these prison terms need to be served in real time. So yeah, that's going to be kind of interesting. They said it could even take days of real time where you're stuck in prison. What you can do, however, is you can break out, or you can actually call other players into your game to come out and break you out and rescue you. So yeah, so it's it looks really, really interesting. I signed up for the beta. We'll see if I get in. If I do, I'll probably play it. And they actually did say that there is no NDA on this beta. There are betas where there are NDAs. This one does not. So if I do get it, I think I will stream it just to kind of show everyone my experiences with it. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, check it out. You know, go to their website, sign up for the open beta. Where Winds Meet, the final pre-launch test. So this is the last one, and then the final game will be launched on July. So the test is on July 24th, so you can do that. Yeah. And then in the comments, we have Noble Cooper here talking about that guy was stabbed and turned into a girl in the trailer. Yes, it's a weird trailer, but a lot of these wuxia kind of things have weird things going on. So, yeah. So Korean.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, I saw this is a NetEase game, but like, when is the actual game releasing if you're having the playtest in July?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up.
So, I mean, overall, like, it looked really cool. And you mentioned Sekiro, I'm like, you know, and my face like, oh no. And then you said, oh yeah, but it's going to have a more, like, not as serious a system. I'm like, oh yeah. So, I mean, this is one of those things where I'm like, okay. I will wait and see, especially because of the difficulty of said games and you know, Sekiro and Dark Souls and Elden Ring and that sort of stuff. On the AI chat, that's something I mentioned. If you go back, I talked about me playing Coral Island, and I wish they had AI chat in there just because it would be nice to have conversations with people, and you get so involved in a particular, you know, game community. Like, man, I wish I could live in that place. And then we've seen Skyrim mods as well, right? You've seen Skyrim mods as soon as ChatGPT 3 came out. People were making mods in Skyrim where you could talk to Lydia and Lydia would say stuff back, and that was cool. I mean, it is kind of weird and maybe a little cringe for some people, but for like people like me, especially who work at home and don't really go out much, like, yeah, it'd be nice to talk to other people because I am at home all the day. So I'm looking forward to this. It looks interesting. I'd be interested to see what the Western perception of this is when it does launch and how many people like it. I mean, given, like you said, the comparison to GTA and stuff, but it being a wuxia game and a Chinese culture game. So let's see.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting. Yeah, from what I've seen when it comes to AI and with talking to AI and that sort of thing, it feels like to me most people aren't necessarily against AI being able to talk to you. They're just more worried about AI stealing human voices. So it seems like if it's purely chat based, people don't seem to mind, or if it's something like what Freedom Wars did with your accessory, where you could, which was really interesting. So in your in Freedom Wars, you can set commands to your accessories, and what you can do is, like, for instance, you can say like, okay, defend, defend or attack or collect resources or whatever, and you could actually go in and type out a response. So if you say like defend, then you could, normally they would just say like Roger that or something like that, but you could type something in that says like, I would die for you, and then they'll say it in the game, which was kind of funny. So something like that where it's just voice to chat, or is it text to voice? I don't think people seem to mind, but I do think where people get sensitive is when you get things like maybe if you were doing like something like Cyberpunk and you want to have a person talking, but then you're recording a person's voice and then that person's voice is coming out. And I think that's where people get wary, because it's like, oh, if I could do it for Cyberpunk, all I have to do is save that voice sample and I can use it for every game in perpetuity. So yeah. So I think the voice chatting is more where people are sensitive than just like text chat. So
I mean, it makes sense as well. I think we're going into a world, and I'm gonna bring back my Kickstarter analogy, right? Where like, hey, do you want to support this game? We have AI voices and stuff, but through AI voices, it's gonna lower the cost of us doing a game. Or do you want to support this game where we are paying some of these very famous voice actors that you know from YouTube, from other places, and you get these notable voices, but it's going to raise the cost of the game to whatever it is, right? I think lovely, good, very high quality voice acting is going to be a feature of games or Kickstarter games in the future, whereas AI stuff is going to be the stuff that the AAA companies are going to maybe have to turn to, because there's still their investors are still expecting those huge profit margins for putting in $200-300 million to make GTA 6 or whatever game it is.
Yeah, I think it's going to get complicated because as games, I mean, this is kind of getting into the Reddit question that we're going to be talking about later, but as games get more complex, I think people are going, once you have a couple games that are going to have this interactive kind of AI talking, like what we saw in that NVIDIA demo a while back where they walk into the bar, once you get a couple of Cyberpunks or Witchers doing it, I think everybody's going to want to do it. And I think it's going to feel limiting. You're still going to have some games that are very catered, especially RPGs, where they're like, okay, you have to have specific options here because I want to tell a very specific story. But I think that a lot of games are going to be opting in for that. And I think there's going to be kind of we're going to hit a place where voice actors are like, okay, well, instead of me doing voice acting for all this, all I have to do is create a voice sample, and then I own the rights to that. And then, I can license that out to people. you know, but then I think once that happens, then it's going to be even harder for people to become, you know, people breaking into the voice acting market. It's going to be harder for them to break in, because it's like, well, you know, I can just pay this sample over, you know, pay for this sample in the same way that you can get like very much in the same way like with Unity, and you have the texture packs, or you get like the asset packs that people create assets online, and then you can just buy them. And you know, I think there people are going to be putting out voice packs, and they're like, hey, you know, here's this voice asset, you pay for it, and then you can use it in your games. You know, similar to, you can get those asset swaps and whatnot. So I think that that's definitely a possibility that we could see moving forward. And then once we get to the point where you get to, I mean, we kind of already do it with like Vocaloids. I mean, Vocaloids, you know, you can kind of tell they're not human, but as AI gets better and it gets kind of this, you know, it gets enough samples, it can create voices that are going to, like Siri or something like that, right? It's going to sound real enough that people are like, why do I even need to hire a voice actor? I can just get an AI to imitate any sound I want. And that's going to be rough.
It's impressive. Like, I was listening to a podcast and they talked about this AI company called Maya. And I mean, last year I looked at another company that sort of like, as the AI was replying to you, it was mapping out my voice and was like, here, these are the emotional quadrants, and you'd see the quadrants on the bottom, and it was just like a real person, to be honest. And Maya, Sesame's Maya has taken that to another level as well, which is like, now every conversation you have with Maya is very emotive. There's honestly no difference between it and a person. But you make a good point with the whole idea of you know, owning a sample or having the rights to a sample, right? And I think that wouldn't have to apply to voice actors. I could imagine that applying to a bunch of different industries where it's like, hey, my name is Adam Gray, this is my teaching style, and I own this. Here's my experience. I can imagine someone saying, hey Adam, we want you to come and answer a whole bunch of questions about teaching, how you'd act in different situations. We'll be training our AI for a month. And you'll be sitting down 8 hours a day for, you know, a month answering questions. And at the end of the day, they'll have a functioning, walking, talking robot. Like we saw that at the beginning of this year. I think Japan had their big robotics show. You could have a walking, talking robot at $3,000, right? And this robot has been trained on with Adam Gray's a decade and a half of teaching experience, and it's going to replace you in the classroom. And it doesn't need to eat, sleep, or anything like that. And it doesn't need jianbao or laobao, right? It doesn't need a salary, and you just charge it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll pimp out our virtual selves as the future economy.
Maybe this is it, right? Maybe this is it. But I mean, like when you said that the sample, right? I think I've heard that, but it makes a good point as well. And I think,
Yeah.
But even that, I think, will be in the short term. Like, why pay for Adam's knowledge when I can generate, or I can use somebody else's knowledge that I got for free, or generate my own knowledge, right? When I don't know.
Yeah, wasn't that one part of the SAG-AFTRA strike? Was they were saying like AI voices might be okay in certain situations, but the idea is that you can't just use somebody's likeness. You would have to basically hire them, and then you have to create your own model with them, and then it's very specifically said that you can only use this model in this game, in this version of the game. So like, yeah, so like for instance, if I was doing Cyberpunk 2, and you know, I could come in, I could read a bunch of lines, and they're like, okay, from this, you know, I get paid a certain sum, and they're like, these are all the lines that, you know, like for instance, maybe they have a script, I read the entire script out, and they're like, okay, well, there's also going to be, we want some interaction, so we're going to be using AI to create some extra stuff here. Is like if the player wants to interact with the thing, I sign off on that, but then they can only use it in that version of Cyberpunk 2. If they want to make an expansion, they have to hire me back, and I have to recreate that database. You know, they can't save that database for other uses. I think that was, if I'm understanding it correctly, that was kind of what they were trying to do with these AI things, where they were like, yeah, you can use it, but you basically have to hire us every single time you use our AI, and we have to rebuild that every single time. You can't just you know, keep using our old build. So that way we're getting the amount of money that we would always be getting. But yeah, I can see where it would get to a point where it's like, okay, well, you know, don't call me in. You already have it. Just pay me the money. Yeah.
I mean, even that has its cost settings, but I think the downside of SAG-AFTRA is that it just is in America.
No,
And-
yeah, definitely. That's why a lot of voice acting has gone overseas since. Yeah.
I mean, not even stuff like I would say America or SAG-AFTRA still has the actor's best interest in heart, but like places like where we live, where companies tend to have the power, they could be the ones that sort of like cause the landslide of like, hey, yeah, we don't need people, we just need AI, and I could imagine it starting here and slowly pushing its way towards the Western world, just because of the nature of companies and working over here. But yeah, we'll have to see in the next few years.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that happens where, you know, it's kind of like people say pay with your wallet, but like if a game comes out and people are like, oh my god, this game yeah, if a game comes out and people are like, oh, this game uses AI, but then, you know, like a couple people play it and they're like, actually, it's a pretty good game, and other people are like, well, you know, fine, I won't get it initially, but I'll get it on sale, and then they pick it up, and then they kind of like it, and then other companies see like, oh, see, this is a survivable model, so.
Exactly. We have gone off the tracks here a few times today, so I'm trying to bring us on. So Subnautica 2 is changing course and not just underwater. A new creative director is shaking things up. David Kalina, co-founder of Tiger Style and known for Spider Right Off the Shrouded Moon, is now the creative director. This could signal a major design or tone shift. The game is still in early development, and a change in leadership now could alter everything from mechanics to story direction. So the shift from a single-player experience to a more multiplayer-focused gameplay has fans divided, and I'll talk about that towards the end. So Subnautica, right, Subnautica had Below Zero, and you know, these were hugely famous games. I'm a person who was super afraid of swimming in the ocean and stuff, and I played Subnautica, and it was exciting and fun and super scary at the same time, but it was a wonderful game. So this to me just screams companies like, hey, so Subnautica did Below Zero, and they did another game which was in early access, which was like a very geeky tabletop RPG sort of game with pawns and stuff. And I'm like, this is cool. And I think we even talked about it on one of the episodes of our show. And I never played it yet. It is still on my wish list, but like this game did not have the reception that Subnautica had, right? And again, another theme we've talked about on the show is like companies trying different things. And I think this time the Subnautica folks went really deep, really geeky, and unfortunately that niche is so small compared to like a survival game like Subnautica with crafting and building and survival and discovering things, going off into a tabletop RPG experience, you know, where it's like, hey, here's this thing that I see on this table and I'm going to move it and attack. And there's some animations and stuff, but it's very limited and very made for a specific audience. So yeah, I mean, if I was a fan of Subnautica 2, I would be worried, and I am worried, right? Because I want to play Subnautica 2. I have not played Below Zero because Antoine streamed it, and like I said in a previous episode, like growing up, when my brothers played something, I would not play something. And I think the same is going to go for Stale Blade. Even though I just found Stale Blade plays really well on the Steam Deck, which I'm super surprised about. So I'm worried about the game, and you guys can let me know down in the comments. Do you think this is something you should be worried about? Should be worried about a change in leadership? And I can see this change in leadership being like, hey, you guys didn't do so well on the game you released it before, so we need somebody else to step in and make this a modern game, a game about that deals with like multiplayer and a live service component, all the stuff that we don't like as older gamers, but we want this because we want this game to bring in that recurring revenue, and a single player Subnautica 2 is not going to do that, which is a shame. And again, because we've seen games like Clear Obscure Expedition 33 do so well despite it being single player, right? And not even just that, like other games where it's just play by yourself. But play by yourself and will sell 1 million copies or 2 million copies, right? And recoup the cost of the game and make some extra money. So I think this is the typical sort of like leadership saying, hey, this will deliver the most value to our investors. I don't care what you guys want. So the rest of the team in Subnautica 2 is still there, like the developers, the designers, the graphic artists, right? What has changed is the people at the top of the company, the visions for the game, which is terrible. But yeah, Subnautica 2 would have been a must buy for me before this, like pre-order for sure. Now I'm not so sure. But you guys let me know what you think. Are you more positive about it? I'd love to know. All right, Adam, let's go straight into your third story.
All right. Yeah, so it was just chatting in the comments here. There's a Noble Cooper suggesting that we can get AI Antoine when he's not here.
That could actually be possible.
And then he said, yeah, so he's saying we could replace any of us anytime we don't come. And I'm saying what we should do is we should get AI us and real us to host together and see what happens.
You know, that's actually possible. There's a company called 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙥𝙦, and some people have done on Instagram, but like they do AI avatars, really, really realistic AI avatars, and you need like 10 minutes of footage to train it, and then it looks pretty good. So you could have real Adam and AI 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙥𝙦 Adam doing a show together.
Can they render it in real time though, or is this like it needs time to process?
So it's like it's in real time. Like I will send you a video. So like it's pretty impressive. The only thing is it costs a load of money. So
I don't have a bunch.
To do an episode like this, a 60-minute show, right? You'd be spending about like $400-500 just for that.
Oof. No, thank you. AI me gets paid more than real me. That's not fair.
Exactly.
I am not on board with that.
So until the costs for that kind of stuff comes down, it's not like for a small time channel like us, like we're close to getting our first check.
Yeah. Close
but
to.
not just yet.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just kind of a little update on the European. We talked about the initiative last time, Stop Killing Games. So this basically, to recap, what happens is people are saying, hey, you know what we need to do is we need to have security against publishers taking down games. You know, if I buy a game and it's suddenly taken down where I no longer have access to that game, that's not fair, you know? So we should have a way to protect ourselves from that happening. And one of the ways to do that is to say, okay, games, if you're going to pull your game offline or you're going to stop, you know, you're going to pull your game from stores or whatever, there needs to be a way that people can have access to that. And so you need to create basically an offline single player version of it so that people can continue playing this game that they've bought. And publishers have clapped back. They've said, this is not actually a great idea. You guys think it is, but it's not as good as you think. And their reasoning actually does have some logic to it. Whether it's a good reason or not, that's entirely up to you, but there is some logic. So the quote is, oh, now I got this little hyperlink thing in my way. The quote is, we appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. In addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. So basically what they're saying is we can't go... It's not as simple as people say. It's more complex than that. Part of it is because when we're offering a game and we have these online servers, we offer services, you know, such as moderating the community or securing your data. If we do peer-to-peer, you know, nobody's moderating that. And if games get twisted and or somebody's using them for nefarious things, such as they're stealing data or targeting children or doing things like this, we could be held liable for that because we made the game and we provided this platform for those individuals. But if we continue to leave these games up, it's just a money sink and it's not financially viable. So what that's going to do is basically, if you have a company that wants to create a game like Concord or wants to create a game like Overwatch or something like that, they're going to be thinking twice because they're going to say, like, they're going to look at something like Concord and they're like, if I had to, like that one they shut down before it even started, you're going to be seeing more of that because people are going to be like, if I'm not guaranteed success with this game, if it's not a guaranteed moneymaker, if it's not the next Apex, then it's too risky because we have to support it. So we're just going to get rid of it, so they're already risk adverse. People complain about AAA games already being risk adverse. This will just make them even more so. And that's what they're saying. Now, if you agree with that or don't agree with that, that's entirely up to you. One of the things that people brought up in defense of the players, again, was they said, hey, okay, that's fine. But here's the thing. If I pay for the game and, you find out that it's not viable, so you're going to shut it down to save money, but I don't get a refund on that. I'm not getting something back. So I'm taking on risk. And, like by doing this, where's my safety and where's my protections? So a lot of people, so a lot of people were saying like, okay, understand. You should be protected in some ways, but we should be too. So it is still up in the air. But it gets a little bit muddier because as we said last time, it was only about what, 2/3 of the way, 2/3 of the way there. There's about a third to go. And then in the last week, they got 1/3 of the votes. This thing has been up for months and then suddenly, boom, this thing has passed the 1 million mark. And this has the founder, Ross Scott, he's a little bit worried because he's been seeing people posting on 4chan or Discord screenshots of spoofing campaigns. And so what that means is people are like, oh, I want this thing to pass. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, create bots and have all these bots sign it. And that'll get it over the 1 million mark. But this has him concerned because, as he said, this is not like change.org. Change.org, you just sign something and then the government's like, all right, well, if enough people sign it, then it draws attention to it, but it doesn't actually mean anything. But this is actually in the EU, this is a government run thing, and it does affect policy. And so signing it falsely is actually a crime. And so that is both a problem for people that are doing this, because if they do, then they could get in trouble. But it's also a big problem for the movement itself, because if it's discovered that a lot of these signatures are indeed fake and they did not reach this limit, then that could throw a whole new light on this and it could be really detrimental. And he also says, he's going to leave it up because he wants to guarantee that it reached that 1 million mark. So at least he's worried that, now that people have seen it, they're like, all right, it reached the 1 million mark. I don't need to sign it. It's already good. And so he's worried that this could actually prevent real people from signing this. So he's trying to encourage people, if you haven't signed it and this is something you're interested in or it's important to you, please still sign it, because, when it comes to the end, we need to make sure that we have at least that many real actual signatures, not just that many signatures. So there is some worry of botting here. But he is happy that it did pass that mark, and hopefully, more people still will continue to sign. So yeah, not the best news on this, but at least it's something. So yeah.
I know. I think from the short you did last week, someone mentioned that there are like 2 things like this, something on the video.
I think what they were trying to say is that I was talking about the European Citizens Initiative online collection system, and I think that is the way they're collecting the signatures. But Stop Killing Games is kind of the name of the movement itself.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, as for the costs and the legal stuff, like I'm sure there are things you could do legally speaking, right? Where you could be like, hey, by downloading this game, you void the developers of blah 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 and blah blah blah. Like I don't see this being now. Yes, I mean, with the game, your game could be turned into something really weird or horrible or who knows what. So I mean, that definitely is an issue. But I mean, that's the right of people. Like you bought something, right? Like used your money for this, and money being even more harder to earn as we've gotten older. Like it's something, right? Like saying I have 783 games in my Steam collection doesn't mean anything because I don't own them, which is terrible. So I same thing I said last week, right? It's like I hope something comes of this where somebody comes up with a service or some rule like the EU forces companies to say like, hey, Steam, you have to now force anybody who sells a game on Steam has to allow that person to play that game in perpetuity, online or offline. Yeah. Okay, moving on to my last story for today because we are running a little bit kind of over time, but
Sorry.
it's all good. So, in my quest to sort of figure out a cozy game for me to play because I really need it. I'm loving 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙥𝙦, but I've been playing like 2 serious games back to back and it's got me down a little bit. So imagine Stardew Valley met SimCity, then put you in charge of the whole town. That's Go-Go Town. So I found this game and I'm like, okay, this looks good. And I have kind of a problem with games that sort of look like Animal Crossing because I like looking at Coral Island, comparing it to Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. I'm like, yeah, man, I want more games that look like Coral Island, right? I'm using Unreal Engine 4. I mean, which is fine because you don't need a live sim farming game to look like an Unreal Engine 5. I'm still waiting for it, but it does need to happen. So, and I saw this, I'm like, okay, this looks cool. This reminds me of that game Dinkum, and apparently this is also made by an Australian developer. So Go-Go Town lets you build and manage a bustling town full of colorful characters, visitors, and weird disasters. So you start by doing everything manually, collecting trash, planting crops, but you can later hire and automate workers to do the busy work. So that's the cool stuff, right? Like, again, if you're somebody who's into automation, like your Factorios, like your Satisfactory games, this might be something to give a try as well. Visitors come and go from your town depending on your town's cleanliness, layout, and entertainment. So again, that sort of reminds you of City Skylines as the most recent sort of city building sim, right? Like, depending how nice and wonderful your town is, depends how people come and go from that specific town. So there's a living ecosystem for you to manage and to sort of make the best use of. It's a bright cartoony style, again, very reminiscent of the original Animal Crossing on the Switch 1 that came out 6-7 years ago. It kind of looks okay, but the thing that to me stands out, and then going back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, is looking at the Steam page, looking at the game's homepage. The developer has something out for every single month of this game. Like July, we're gonna do this. August, we're gonna do that. November, we're gonna do that. And I mean, from a content creator's perspective, I'm like, this is cool, right? Like now I can plan, like, okay, July update patch. What happened, right? Like, oh, how's the game going now? Like, but even from a person perspective, right? Because this game is in early access. I should have said that sooner. It's not completely out yet, but you know, sometimes with early access games, you play it and then it's like 3 months with no content update at all. And that sucks, right? Because you're enjoying the game, you're having fun, and like, I want more, and there's no more to play. So this is looking really well. The developer's putting some time and energy and money behind it, frankly. So this is the kind of early access game I would reconsider because I have not played an early access game since the very first my time at Porsche. And that's a game I played and I did most of it and there was no more content to do. But this might be an early access game playing at my pace, right? Like an hour a day and not playing Saturday and Sunday, so 5 hours a week, where you could play enough of this game where a number of updates coming forward would mean that you keep playing it for a while. Now, I'd love to give this a try, and this might be one of the choices, but again, talking to Adam, I'm like, maybe a multiplayer game might be better because, and again, money being money, it's easier for people to play something free to play than it is to pay like $20 for this, which I think what is the cost. So Go-Go Town, another great cozy gaming suggestion. Again, very relaxing, very easygoing. If you've played it, I'd love to know, because this might be something I play on the Steam Deck, because it looks like it will run like that. I have not checked that out. I think the last Steam Deck stuff I watched was Still a Blade working, and I'm like, wow, I didn't think that could happen. But yeah, Go-Go Town, let me know if you like it or if you don't.
I like the aesthetic. I was trying to put my finger on it, and I was like, why does this look familiar? I mean, they're kind of like Animal Crossing, and they're kind of like Mies, but not exactly. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And then I saw the character customization, and I was like, this reminds me of Mod Nation Racer. That's what these guys look like. But yeah, I like the aesthetic.
Nice. All right, Adam, answer us some questions.
Of course.
Founder of Arcane Studios, I think Game Pass is an unsustainable model that has been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade.
That's it. That's the entire prompt. Yeah, no, this is basically what I've been saying since the beginning. Yeah, I'm not gonna say I told you so, but I've always had concerns that, you know, where is this money? You know, if people aren't buying games, then where's the money going to be coming from? And if we're paying less money for something like Game Pass than we were spending on games, Microsoft's getting that money, you know, if they're giving the amount of money that we're putting into these developers, they're not getting as much money as they were. So the only way that this could be sustainable is if Microsoft is losing money by basically saying like, okay, you guys are going to make this much money, we're going to offer this much money to the players, and then we're going to give you the amount of money that you would have made anyway. Which means that they're losing money, and that's not a sustainable model. So how is this going to work? And now you see people coming out and saying like, wait, how is this going to work? I do think it has uses. One thing I think it's great for is old games that maybe are not as selling as well anymore. You know, this is a great way to kind of refresh those or put some life back into those. I also think it's really good for some indie studios for maybe their first game where they're like, hey, you know, we're not going to be able to advertise ourselves. So like Korean was saying earlier, we're just going to get buried under all the games on Steam. So putting us on Game Pass is a great way to get our name out there, to get our face out there, to get people's attention. And then on our second game, we're not going to go with the Game Pass model, or maybe, you know, maybe with the second game we will again, but maybe, you know, eventually the idea is to get off that model. But it's a great way to advertise early on for small developers. So I see it has uses, but for what people are wanting out of it, and what Microsoft seems to be kind of pushing it as, is this kind of go-to place for all your gaming needs. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I've never really understood how that was supposed to be sustainable.
Thank you very much. All right, and the last question for today. Again, we talked about it already. If we are in the middle of the quote-unquote AI revolution, why does AI in video games still suck?
All right, well, I think this is actually a two-issue problem. The first issue is that not all AI is the same. You know, just because you have AI that's good at one thing doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be good at another thing. So just because you have AI that's able to mimic something does not mean it's going to be good at decision making on its own and being creative, right? It's just good at copying something that already exists. So we're looking at two different kinds of AI. But also, I think the other issue is that AI is very, very power hungry. Like if you've seen articles where people say like how AI is damaging the environment because it requires so much electricity to run. If you're trying to run AI on a local PlayStation or an Xbox, you're going to be, if you want really good AI, you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices in other parts of your game to free up processing power for that AI. And I think it's just a question of efficiency. You know, can we get decent enough AI, but still also have graphics and these other things running in the background as well?
No, I agree with you. And I think some people might have not sort of discovered, like the AI we're talking about, the chat GPTs and stuff, they are LLMs, right? Large language learning models or something like that, right? but they work on patterns, right? It's basically, it's math to say, okay, this is what Adam wanted. Using math, what is the most logical thing as next? Like, okay, what is the capital of Taiwan? And I'm like, okay, of course, it's the first letter. Capital of Taiwan is Kaohsiung, Taipei, Yilan, Hualien, that sort of stuff, right? And eventually, like, okay, looking at the answer, looking at all these answers, the mathematical probability of this being the right answer is this, right? How do you adapt that into a game? It's not exactly super usable just yet. So the AIs we know and we love and we use, and it's definitely in the workplace. I've seen AIs transformed a fair bit from like last year, like, yes, I know my coworkers are using AI, but we don't talk about it. To now, it's like, yes, everybody's talking about how they use AI at work. CMO in my department was like, hey, these are all the AI tools I use on a regular basis. My boss is boss. So yeah, it is an AI revolution, but it hasn't exactly come to gaming just yet. Fantastic. Adam, any last minute notes before today?
No, that's basically it.
Very cool. And have you figured out streaming for some yet? Are you able to stream at all?
Yeah, it's gonna be off and on. So like this week I was supposed to. This week is supposed to be tomorrow and Friday. I need to double check with that because we had a typhoon yesterday. I could have streamed yesterday, but I slept in. But we had a typhoon yesterday, so I was supposed to be teaching yesterday. So I need to see if they've moved that to a different day or not. They might just say like, well, we just lost a day to the typhoon, no big deal. But if so, then I'll be teaching Tuesday, and I'll be streaming tomorrow and Friday. Next week, I think is the same, or maybe next week is only Friday. I'm teaching a summer class with another guy, and we have a whole schedule worked out. He'll be gone for like 3 or 4 weeks in August. So when he's gone, I won't be able to stream. But until then, he'll be teaching most of the days, so I should be able to stream most days. Summer schedules are always all over the place. So yeah.
What are you going to be streaming?
Next will be tomorrow. What will I be streaming?
Yes.
I will be streaming. I'm continuing with Doll's Nest for now. I'm playing.
You haven't finished the game yet?
I finished it. I'm in New Game Plus. I've cleared. I cleared 2 areas, 1 area. Yeah. So I'm probably at least halfway. Well, no, maybe not quite halfway. Close to halfway through my first New Game Plus. And I've been playing Death Stranding on my own. So yeah. I'm doing that.
Very nice.
I don't know if people want to see me drive across Australia and then pick up a bunch of metal and then drive all the way across Australia, drop it off to build a new road, and then drive back to get ceramics, and then drive back to build a new road. I don't know if anybody wants to watch that.
You'd be surprised how many people want to watch that. Like, I've seen some weird Death Stranding streams of people just driving.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly satisfying. I don't know how much fun it would be to watch. It would be great to watch and chat with people, but also part of the reason is I've been having a moderate success with Doll's Nest. We've 2 people that've been coming in regularly to chat, and that's always great. I love having chat, and I do think that if I did switch to Death Stranding, it's just going to be so many people streaming it. Then it'll just be me sitting at the bottom of the Twitch streams. So go where the people are. Go where the people are, and the people are currently at Doll's Nest. So I am happy to stay there for now.
No problem. All right, that is it for today. Hope you guys had a good week so far. Lots of gaming news to come, so stay tuned and see us next week. And then we will see you guys at the same time, same place for more news, more games. And don't forget to check out the videos.
Catch you later.
Later.